morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams, and today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection for 2022. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection for 2022. I always have a few things I need to go over before we get to the collection. So let me just round up this intro real quickly and then we'll get to the palettes because I have over 250 to go through with you. So let's get going. So in case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come in here, chat about eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel, and it greatly skews my makeup preferences. So if you would like to join the Snow Angel Club, then please click subscribe below. So disclaimers out of the way first, and I'm going to leave chapters in the video so you can skip to any part of the video you might like, but every time I film one of these, I have to say a couple of things in advance, just so people don't go crazy in the comments. So yes, I have a larger eyeshadow palette collection. Currently in my active makeup collection, I have 250, just over that. You're going to see more palettes than that. So if you were to count along, because I did pull palettes from other parts, where, for instance, I keep some of them in a makeup memory box. Those are just things I don't ever want to declutter. There's also a couple of things on the chopping blocks that I'm not currently keeping in my drawers because I pretty much already know that I'm going to get rid of those things. And there are things I have because I like keeping them for video. So even though I'm not a huge fan of those palettes, because they're part of a particular palette family, I tend to keep them around so that I can always talk about it in a video. So some of it is for YouTube purposes, some of the things are chopping block material, and other things are just things I hold very near and dear to my heart. So you're going to be seeing a little bit more than the 250 that I already have. And yeah, that's a large makeup collection, mainly because I tend to hang on to things if I really like them. I don't just declutter things because they have expired. Makeup doesn't go bad as quickly as a lot of people make it out to seem. Very often, if you just keep it in a dry, dark place, you can keep eyeshadow for years because it is a powder product. And if you make sure your fingers are clean and your brushes are clean before every use, you really have no issue with products staying around as long as my Naked 2 has. So those disclaimers out of the way, let's just get into these eyeshadow palettes. We're kicking off the video with the newest things in my collection. They are by Douglas. They were sent to me as a gift. This is the Sunset Girl, and this is a warm tone neutral palette that seems just a little lackluster compared to everything that I've got going on in my collection. But I'm curious to try the formula because I've never tried this brand before. Eyes Full of Stars, which is neutral with a bit of cool tones. Like, it's not as cool toned as it looks at first glance because it's got the blue packaging. Got myself the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes the other day. This is hot off the press. It arrived yesterday. And this is, of course, very hyped up. I was a little thrown off when this first launched. Because it's got that orange, and that kind of, yeah, like the oranges are just not my vibe, but I do really like greens, blues, and purples. So I'm going to be testing this one out in the next couple of months, and you can be expecting a review of this. I also got myself the Fantastica Cosmetica, is that what they're called? The Druid palette. They now have a new one out called the Sorcerer, which is like pretty bright, but I just wanted this because of those lovely grungy shades. Again, I haven't swatched this yet. I haven't played with it, but it looks like we've got some duochromes going on through the middle. These mattes remind me a lot of the ABH subculture. And then a brand that was on the list to try for 2022 was Aether Beauty. So their Rose Quartz palette has been on my wish list ever I saw Hannah Louise Poston talking about it. So they redid it and now it's a little bit smaller, I believe, but the formula also is better, I've heard. But I mainly wanted it because it has really lovely cool tones. And then the other one I got is the Moonlight Crystal palette, and this I got because Betty Bean was raving about it. Or Betty Jean from Beauty Bean? Betty Bean? I never know what her channel is called anymore. So this is blues, greens, and purples with some cool tone neutrals. So that appeals to me, of course. Next up is Essence. And Essence is a brand, of course, that I try out a lot from. Not all of these palettes are part of my actual makeup collection. Just recently they came out with this. This is the Essence Jurassic World collab that they did in summer. And I tried this out and it's really pretty. It's got some really pretty green tones up here. That's really the main selling point of this palette. In my Makeup Memories box, I keep the Silver Glitter Show. This is a limited edition collection from years ago. This was the first time they collabed with Catrice, and I keep it around for that really beautiful sparkling packaging, of course. It's a cool tone color story, and this was when Essence really started doing really good eyeshadows. But yeah, the Jasmine palette was my favorite of the Essence and Disney Princess collab that they did with Catrice. So this is what the color story looks like. It's cool tones, it's got purples, it's got a teal, it has a duochrome. It matches Jasmine's aesthetic pretty well, I feel, and the colors worked really well too. The Roma palette is pretty. It's warm toned neutrals with a pop of green. This works really well. I just wish there was a little bit more green in it to really make it more interesting. The Miami looked a lot more promising because it has those fun bright pops of purple and the turquoisey greens here. But in the end, it's like 6 neutral shades and then a couple of colorful ones, and even something like this still pulled like a neutral on here, and I also felt the shimmers in here weren't the best. More limited edition Essence stuff. This is the Ariel palette from years ago. This is the Ariel palette, and I like this because in terms of color story, Essence has done several Ariel related palettes, but I feel the color stories in those palettes weren't always that interesting. But I love how each character in the movie is sort of represented. Then we have this little collection over here in Europe. I can only get these 4. In the US you can find 4 more. I like to mauve it. Mauve it is in my makeup collection because I do like it, even though I wish that purple was different. But I do really like that we get this really stunning, like dirty lavender shade. I mean, I live for shades like this. Then we have the Dancing Green, which is the other one that I keep in my collection because it's got, this is much more perfect because we do get a dark green. I was afraid that this was going to be a gray as well, but luckily we get a dark green. Essence can do some really good eyeshadow if they put their minds to it, and this is just a great one as well. My least favorite of the 4 were Ice Ice Baby, which, like the Like to Mauve It Mauve It, just suffers from the fact that it's 4 grays and only 2 blues, and the 2 blues you get in here are very similar. Bronze this way, it's warm tone neutral, so I wasn't gonna love this for sure, but there are a couple of good undertones in here because there's a bit of red leaning warm tones, and those I feel are a lot more flattering on me. And then we have the current limited edition that was launched this spring. We have the Patch, which was fun because it was definitely a very different palette. We even get a Dalmatian shade with like white with like flecks of black. Dumbo is great cool tones. We get some yellow, but we also get these really nice soft blue shades, something darker here as well. It is quite gray and lavender leaning heavy, but it's got some fun shades. And here as well, they also did a confetti shade for like the circus theme from Dumbo. And then the Bambi is really pretty. It's neutral tone browns with some greens. This next little spread isn't that big, but I feel it sort of warranted its own category. These are my Asian beauty brand palettes. I'm going to be testing out the Clio palettes for you in September, if I'm not mistaken. This is Walking on the Cozy Alley, which is a bit more matte now that I have it home because we only get this shimmer and it's quite chunky. Everything else is matte. I think the favorite of the 2 though is going to be Picnic by the Sunset because it just has a few more shimmers. Granted, we do get something that looks like a pressed glitter. These are really good palettes if you just like a wash of color. And then we have Moonshot. This is their Rêve de Paris à Moonshot eyeshadow palette, and this I've just been testing out, so this is going to pop up in my next 10 palette review video. In here you get essentially 2 looks. It's a great travel palette. It's very small. This shimmer is really, really stunning. These pulled a little bit more warm toned. And then we have Dear Dahlia, and their compacts are really small, really cute. And this is the eyeshadow palette in Strawberry Crush. And this is what the packaging looks like. It's got a little mirror in the middle, and you get a cream and then 2 shimmering shades here. You can use it on your cheeks as well. So I think I'll have fun playing with this. Something I've already filmed with is this palette from Zishi. This is from their Nutcracker collection. And this is really, really pretty. You almost don't want to use it because the embossing in the pans is just so pretty. And then we have the Peach Sea Falling in Pink eyeshadow. This is the palette that made me realize that K-beauty brands can just do some really lovely eyeshadow. And this, I mean, it just makes for some really, really pretty makeup. It's not the most intensely pigmented. You can build it up. So especially if you like things for every day, definitely check out some K-beauty. And then we have this behemoth. Welcome to my Catrice eyeshadow palette collection. These were the Catrice palettes that came out this spring, along with the Essence ones I already showed you. So the Marie is very pretty, but it's very sort of pink heavy. The Miss Bunny was a really lovely palette. It's got some neutrals and then some plums and purples. That blue you might expect is not gonna work, but it worked really well. My favorite one of the three was the Lady palette. This shade here. Let me swatch it. I mean, that is Catrice eyeshadow. It's got these like really rich, like golden, like it's got some grunge almost to it, especially because it's got that really dark brown shimmer there as well. Some more Disney collab limited edition stuff is the Ursula palette from the Disney Villains collection. The quality in this is very underwhelming. The Ursula one was the best in terms of how the color story matched the character, I feel. And then we have another Catrice limited edition. This is the Belle palette. This is again from a joint collection. I think this was the one that came out when the Essence line had the Jasmine palette, so those were linked. And then this summer's limited edition collection from Catrice was the eyeshadow palette in their Tropic Exotic line. This is warm tone neutrals with a pop of blue and green. This is really good quality. Now these don't even fit in the frame. There are 7 already of these out. There's going to be an 8th one, the Pro Slim palettes. So we have the Neon Earth. This is one of the first ones that came out. This is warm tones. This is one of the better quality ones, as well as the Next Gen Nudes. These were the first two. This is like your Huda Beauty new nude kind of dupe. But then they came out with the Peach and with the Lavender Breeze. And these weren't the best in terms of quality, which is why I've seen a lot of people writing these palettes off, because this is the only thing they've tried. But here we get some interesting color stories combined with some good quality shadows. The Vintage Soul is my top favorite. If you were to get just one, make it this one. This is so pretty. We've got some rosy tones, some cooler tone neutrals, combined with like burgundy plummy leaning shades, and then these lean a little bit more green toned. Then the Natural Spirit is Khaki Greens. It has a bit of khaki going on in this side of the palette. We get some warm tones here as well. This is Stone. It is a brown, but it has a little bit of a green running through it. And then we have the hint of mint. This is the last one they came out with in the springtime. So here we have, again, some warm tones with a pop of green. And then my other love affair from Catrice is with these 5-in-a-box palettes. This is my favorite one. 5-in-a-box modern smoky look. We get cool tones, some taupe leaning shades, and some bluish grays. This is like more of like a steely blue, that shimmer. It's really stunning. This is another favorite. This is Warm Spice look. This is Vivid Burgundy look. And we have another cool tone one. This is Soft Rose look, which is another favorite. Is Golden Nude look, Blue Smoky look. So I feel that this is a little too gray heavy. This flat lay is going to be some random drugstore bits. So the first one is the Max & More Floral Romance eyeshadow palette. Last year when I showed you this, I hadn't tried it yet. I've tried it since. For how expensive this is, I think it's like under €3. It's actually pretty okay. And these were gifts from a subscriber that I finally got around to using this year. The Jungle from Revolve Hearts Me has some really lovely colorful shades. I really liked playing with it, but I feel that a lot of the shimmers have a very similar level of shimmer. And from the same brand, I have the Smoky palette. This was my favorite of the two, actually, not only because it is cool tones, but I felt I got a little bit more variety in here and shades that worked better. An oldie but a goodie that I keep thinking, should I declutter this, yes or no, but it's such a good cool tone color story that I hang on to it. This is the Dark Magic from Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. This is lovely. It's got taupes, it's got teal, it's got like murky shades. A great one that I still have in my collection is the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean. I don't think any drugstore palette I've tried since this has ever beaten this. This is so good for how expensive how expensive it is. You get some neutrals, you get some greens. It's mostly blue heavy, but bronzy, taupey shade. And then we have an OG Sleek's Au Naturel eyeshadow palette. This was my neutral palette before I had any other sort of neutral palette. Then we have the Kiko Milano Precious Rituals quad. This is my replacement for a Kiko palette I used to have. And then we have H&M Nice Mauves. This is the one I've decided to keep around. It's really pretty. It actually reminds me of a Kiko quad I used to own. H&M Beauty is possibly created in the same factory as Charlotte Tilbury is. Then we have the H&M Vintage Rose eyeshadow palette. This was pretty, but I felt this was a bit lackluster. Next up, my luxury selection here from Chanel. This is Tissé Dimension, and this is Road Movie, and these are great. This Dior trio has a pop-up mirror, which is great, and you get some khaki greens in here. Then we have Miss Charlotte here. This is Walk of No Shame, which I haven't used yet. Then I have the Vintage Vamp, which is my favorite one, which is why I kept it. This is sort of like what I use when it's Christmas, like holiday season. And then this one was a surprise. This is the Easy Eye palette for the Charlotte Darling look. And these are really, really nice and smooth and buttery. Dior. So this is an old Dior one, and I kept it mainly for the packaging. I like that salmony shade, but this is really old. But I just love how you get the C and D in that packaging. These are the newer ones I have. This is Black Knight, and this is House of Dreams. And this is great for a smoky eye, and this is a great one and done shadow. Then we have a more affordable option again. This is Juvia's Place, so the Deuce you can no longer get, and I don't feel I need that new palette, the Gardens of Juvia's, because I still have this. Then we have the Festival, which is a bit out there, but I have always felt like these two make for really good crease shades, and these actually pull neon on me, and that pink as well. So it, like, Juvia's Place mattes aren't the best, but that sheers up beautifully on my fair skin. My favorite pop of blue palette from Juvia's though is this one. This is Warm Tones with a pop of blue. The Tribe is still on their website, but it says no longer available, so I don't know if they're gonna bring this back, but this is like, I'm gonna cover this for a while. Then the Nomad is just one of the best grungy eyeshadow palettes ever made. And then the Saharan is also still for sale, but mine is a bit different because I repressed a red from the Afrique in here. It's a bit of a weird one to have in this palette, but I feel that just adds interest to this because it's very cool toned. And then we have these mini palettes. So we have the Berries, which was a gift. The Taupes is quite possibly my favorite. It's very, very light. If you don't have fair skin, you're not gonna love it, but I love how it has different undertones of taupe in every row. The Violets I like. I kind of keep this around as a small curated purple palette. And then we have the Mauves, which I like as well. This works really well combined with the Violets or with the Berries. And there's this really stunning duochrome shimmer in it, which is why it's very difficult to get rid of this one. Some more affordable things then, we have BH Cosmetics and the Beauty Bay brand. And if you're wondering, Micah, a Kaleidos palette? No, this has repressed Beauty Bay Wilderness shades in. So I repressed some of those shades that I liked from the palette, but I didn't love the entire palette. Look at that. There you go. The Age of Opulence is a good one too. I like that we get some deeper shades in here, so I kind of keep it around to pair it with the Book of Magic. The Beauty Bay formula is one where I'm like, I can see why people rave about this, but for me it's just not perfect, which is why I still prefer the Book of Magic because it has those lighter shades. Let me swatch this shimmer here. These do feel different because this is one of the earlier palettes, so I feel they feel different than the ones in the Wilderness. And then we have Blueberry Muffin from BH Cosmetics. This I feel is a really good palette actually, but I didn't like it as much as everybody else, mainly because these two shades kind of threw me off and I don't get a good enough crease shade. My favorite BH palette is the Love in London. It has a bit of warmth, but most of it is cool tones, and yeah, we know how I feel about this by now, I hope. This taupey shade. Absolutely stunning. And then we have the Paris Passion in Paris. This I felt was better for me than the Blueberry Muffin because this shade works really well on me as a crease shade, and I need that with these like really dark tones. I just don't love the berries at the bottom. And then we have the Pistachio and the Bubblegum from their Sweet Shop collection. This is really lovely. I love the quality. This is now one of the only like true green tone palettes I have. The blue one I love. This one is just, it's really, really good. If I want to go blue, I go Bubblegum. Next up, Nabla. This is Nabla side by side. I didn't love this. I decluttered this. This has some lovely shades, I'm not gonna lie, but for my skin tone, this wasn't perfect. Then we have the Cutie palettes. Not all of these were perfect for me. The Metropolitan, lovely palette. I really like this shimmer here. In here, I just didn't feel that all of the shades necessarily came together. And then the Wild Berry, similar thing. There are 1 or 2 shades in here that I like, but I don't love all of them. These were far more successful. Analog is my favorite one. It's warm tones, but it's got those reddish undertones that I do like. The Platinum is really, really stunning too. This eyeshadow palette is just cool tones for people who don't love cool tones. But the Nude is one of my favorites if you're looking for a good neutral everyday palette that only has 6 shades and can see you through a lot. This is one of my favorite picks. The Coral is one that I didn't think I was going to like, but then I tried it and I really love it. That's why this is also one of my favorites. And then we have the Cutie Midnight, which is blues. It's not as blue as I'd like, but it works really well if you top it over the dark navy blue that's in here. Then we have Soul Blooming, Peaches, and Periwinkles. This has been discontinued, sadly. The Secret, and this is really pretty as well. That green right there. And this is like the reason why I keep this palette around. It's so, so pretty. I do apologize for how dark it is, but I can't control clouds, unfortunately. And some like brands where I have a couple of palettes, but I don't have too many of. We have Adept. These are new. This was another brand I wanted to try in 2022. This is the Plain Jane Remastered. Really lovely. Really like this shade here, that warm tone. Like, these feel very smooth and very nice texture. And then we have the Ninhydrin. This is far better for me in terms of color story. We do have 2 really nice mattes, and then we have these plummy shades, but this green is life. We have some Sigma bits. This is the Enchanted palette. This one I like, but I wasn't overly excited about this color story. So this half of the palette I just like better than that half. I just do. I hope I have better success with the new mod. This I'm currently trying out. It's on my to try pile. You'll see my thoughts in my next 10 palette review video, which should go live in a couple of days. And here we have my Sydney Grace and Temptalia collab collection, but this one offers the most interesting shades. So this is the Quintessence. This is what it looks like. It just has some really, really cool shades. Let me swatch this. And there we have that. And then this is the On the Horizon, which is murkier, grungier shades. Like, this is just, oh, I live for shades like that. And then we have Radiant Reflection, which is more bright jewel tones. This is a roundup of some indie shadows I have. We have some Unearthly Beauty. So this is a UK-based indie brands. This is the Pamper Me and the Bubble Time. And the shimmers in here are amazing. Unearthly Beauty. So that you can see what their matte formula is like. So that's a bit thinner, but the shimmers is, wow. Then we have Game Beauty, and their packaging is just stunning. Can we take a moment? And what I love is that the actual color story inside is reflected by the packaging. I just love it. This is warm tones with a pop of teal. Let me swatch this teal here. Teals and taupes, that's where it's at. And then we have the Adventure, which has a pressed glitter, but they haven't done pressed glitter since then. This green shimmer is really, really pretty. And then we have the Adventure, which is pastels. This is my least favorite one. I feel we get a lot of blue tones in here, and then these 3 feel a bit random. Shroud is US based. They have the Creepy Cute. There's a number 2 out, which is still like sort of eyeing me from afar, but I know I don't need it in my life. This has some really good pastels, and it's one of my favorite pastel palettes, I'm not gonna lie. This is what Planchette looks like. Then we have the Arcana palette. This is great grungy jewel tones. I mean, it has so many stunning shades in here. I even like the warm tones in here. There we go. And then we have It's Freakin' Bats, their collab with Betty Bean. I really like this, but the shades in here just don't really come together for me. And then we have Meesha Lou. This is a UK-based indie brand that nobody talks about anymore. There are a couple of shades here that may seem a bit samey though, like these 2 and those 2 may look a bit identical, but I feel I can do different things with it. And this is the shade Water Reflections. And they do a similar thing in their Witchcraft palette. This is lovely grunge tones. Like, this is one of the best grungy eyeshadow palettes. Ta-da! Some more indie brands that I have a couple by. So I have some Dosing of Colors up here. This is the Smoky Soiree. But on the lids, that shade is what makes a difference in this palette. Then we have the Pretty Cool. This is their All Matte Cool Tone palette. It's easily my most used shade in this palette. Then we have the Blushing Berries. I love this for a very smoky eye in the fall time. Marvelous Mauves. I still like this as well, now that I look at it again, but this is one I haven't reached for in a while. And then we have some Glamshop. So they are a Polish indie brand, so they're based in the EU. This is their blue palette. Apparently it's just Polish for blue. There you have that shimmer. This is the green palette. I mean, their shimmer formula is... And I believe they are discontinuing these 9 pans. My top favorite of these 3 though is the Coco Sanka. Like, this is cool tone neutrals with 5 shimmers and this like duochrome moment in the middle. And then we have Midas Cosmetics. So this is the Smoky Glow palette and this is their Unveiled Cool Nudes. This is not a very cool toned eyeshadow palette though. I'm not a huge fan of this. It feels like cheap makeup. I felt it was worse in the Smoky Glow. I like just one shade in this entire palette now that I've used it, and I don't think it deserved the hype. But this shade, Group Chat. Next roundup, Urban Decay. We have the 15th anniversary jewelry box. It's very intense. Everything has shimmer. This deep end shade. Maybe it's time to sort of just move these into a Makeup Memories box. And we have Full Spectrum. This was my very first rainbow palette, which is why I still have it. Not all of the shades in here performed as well as a lot of people wanted it to be, but it's got some really lovely things and I like the gradient. The heavy metals, we have neutrals on one side and jewel tones on the other. I was blocking the mirror with the back talk. You have eyeshadows and face palettes. I felt that this complemented this side really well. We have the After Dark, which is the sister to the, what was it called? The Electric palette. And then we have the Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass palette, which is one of those Book of Shadows monstrosities with like pop-ups. And who remembers this? This was in Urban Decay's line for a long time. What was this called? The Deluxe Shadow Box, I believe. And it had some OG Urban Decay shades. This is what I mean with older palettes not having color stories. This is the Born to Run. This is a lot of people's favorite Urban Decay palettes, but I actually feel that it's like the warm tone version and more updated version of the Vice 3. Speaking of Vice, we have the Vice 3 that I just showed you. This, again, not a real color story, but you do get some rose here. The Vice 4. We got some rose like this, again, but not a real color story. They have stunning shades, which is why I keep these around. Vice 2, not even a color story to speak of, but some lovely shades. Let me show you Stash. These like olivey, greeny, gold shades. And then we have the Vice 1. Again, no color story whatsoever, but some lovely shades. And I felt that this could like be our entryway into the Naked world. We have Naked Ultimate Basics. All matte, bit cumbersome, but the packaging is pretty. And then we have the Naked Basics mini palette. So we have one. This wasn't my favorite. The Naked Basics 2 I used so much for like a basic eye look. And then I have the Naked 3 mini. This never came to the Netherlands. By now Urban Decay has completely disappeared here. Naked Cyber. Anyone? So Urban Decay Naked palettes are my I just have a very long-standing love affair with these things. Naked Cyber I thought was actually really pretty. It got a lot of flack, but I thought that on my fair skin, it's really that like Y2K sort of throwback for me. Then we have Wild West, which is, you know, Dream Street vibes. We get warm tone neutrals with a pop of greeny teals. Ultraviolet is, I think, one of my favorites because I just like the purples in here. I just wish it didn't have so many peachy tones on this side. Then we have the Naked Honey, which is my favorite neutral toned one. I think that this, like, you should just ignore the yellows. Like these two. And then we have a really good mustardy brown neutral palette. The Cherry is since decluttered. It's in a Makeup Memories box. They were very late to the game with this and I just have other berry tones I like much better. And then we have Naked Heat, which is a good warm tone palette. Naked Smoky. Those gray tone blues, I just love. I've said it many times before. Naked 3, one of my favorites, but it has been dethroned. Oh no, oh no. I love Mugshot. Can we just have a moment to appreciate Mugshot? And Urban Decay Naked 2 discontinued. You can't really see in this lighting, but it's got some pan, or dents I should say, so I could hit pan on this quite easily. I just love YDK. That's YDK. And then we have Naked 1, which is in a Makeup Memories box because this was never my favorite. And then we have Naked Reloaded. Are you ready for a Colourpop eyeshadow palette collection that has hardly any original color stories left? Menage à Moi. This is Making Mauves as well as Menage à Moi as well as Flutterby. It's got like 4 different shades, 4 palettes in here. Flutterby, this is Orchid You Not and Wine and Only. This is High Tide with the 3 shimmers or the 3 teals from the original Dream Street. Mint to Be is Mint to Be and the Just My Luck. The Smoke Show, aka the Blowing Smoke, has 1 shade that's different from the Blue Moon. Lilac You A Lot has 1 shade from It's My Pleasure. Making Mauves is the warm tone version of what I've got going on in my Menage à Moi. This is the Off Quartz and Tinkerbell collection eyeshadow palette combined. This isn't even Colourpop shadows anymore. This is Juvia's Place. One I haven't changed, Baroque, especially this shade here. Let me do a swatch here. There's just too many here. So yeah, that's really pretty. The Child Mandalorian palette has a couple of shades in here from Just My Luck. That's Taupe I didn't change. This is one of my favorites. I especially like this shade and also this like green tone taupe. Those are my favorites. So I just really like these like smaller pans from Colourpop. They are my favorite formula from them. High Tide. This is my honey. I put it in here because I like the packaging better. This is the watermelon one. Some strawberry shake, some cherry crush. It's got all of like those shades in here. Going Coconuts, didn't change it. And then strawberry shake, if I can open it, is Ooh La La, It's My Pleasure, and strawberry shake. And in my Blush Crush palettes, I have the 9 shades I kept from the Stone Cold Fox. The Ballad palette, I again put 2 different shades in that weren't originally in here. And then these neutral toned ones I think are my favorites. So this is the Sorbet. My favorite is Cream Soda. This is so great for like a very quick and easy everyday eye look. Dare to Bear, which is all mattes, which is actually quite pretty. I did like that. And then we have the Zodiac collection. We've got Cancer, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. The Capricorn one is one of my favorites, I think. It's like cool tone neutrals. The Virgo, I think, is my second favorite. This is just pretty. This is just a really good one. The Cancer is pretty. It's a little unexpected because this is more of like a plummy purple and this is more peachy. Taurus, this is also my least favorite one. Huda Beauty is next up. So I have the, what's this called again? Emerald Obsessions. This is like a grungy green color story that I do still really appreciate. It combines pretty well with the khaki Obsessions as well. This isn't as green as a lot of people wanted it to be, but I do like the greens we get in here. The Pastel Lilacs, I really thought this worked really well on my very fair skin tone. The Purple Haze I thought was really, really stunning, but she does put a lot of peach toned neutrals in here, which I wish she wouldn't do because it makes everything warm toned. Neon Obsessions, Popsicles in a palette. Then we have the Wild Jaguar. This one I got last year. This is pretty, but it's quite smoky. Then we have the brown, the Chocolate Brown Obsessions. This is really pretty. It's got some like reddish undertones. It goes really well with the Nude Ritz. This is really stunning. I really like as well how that combines with the Sand Haze. And then I really like how both of these combine with the Nude Obsession. And then we have the larger palettes, and these I also quite enjoy. The Desert Dusk is like my pick for warm tone neutrals with a pop of purple. And then we have the Mercury Retrograde. This is great for people with fair skin. I've said it many times before. You get a really good variety here, and these can work as quads, as sextets. And then the latest one, the Rose Quartz. The minute this launched, I had to have it. I feel that not all of the textures in here are up to my liking, but like this taupe shimmer, I mean, so stunning. You're looking at the one-offs from like mainly indie brands. The Sugar Crystals from Violet Voss I got because so few colorful palettes actually have good shimmers. So these are good colorful shimmers that can go with a lot of different rainbow palettes I have, for instance. KVD Beauty, the Monarch. This is definitely in a Makeup Memories box. This is very old, but I just love the packaging design. This is a new to me brand. This is Makeup by Lisa. This is her Raven's Castle palette. This is from the UK. This is a great cool tone color story. These textured shades at the bottom. I mean, they don't look like much, but look at that shine. We have some M Cosmetics here. I only have one of their palettes. This is the Vine Skies in Rodin. And this is from their Masterpiece collection. You get 3 mattes, 3 shimmers. This is a good neutral eyeshadow palette if that's what you're looking for. We have Sigil inspired Temi Tenuka, the Perky Lavender Chinchilla. I keep forgetting what this is called. Absolutely stunning. It's very pretty. Sugar Pill Fun Size. There's also a number 2 of this one out, I believe, but that I don't have, but it does seem to have some lovely grungy shades. This is all matte, colorful, some neons, some bright shades, some pastels. Then Lois Cosmetics Meet Me in the Underworld. I could not declutter this. Such a good packaging, and I did like some of the looks I did here. It's just the shimmer formula isn't the best, I feel. And then we have this row left. We have the What's Up Beauty Desert Monsoon palette. This is in my current to try pile. I've already tried it out, so it's going to make an appearance in my next 10 palette review video. The shimmers in here, that is absolutely beautiful. I didn't know where to put this, but we have Patrick Ta, and I'm blinding you. This is the Major Dimension 2. This is the Rose palette. I felt very pretty wearing these. It's very glam though. I do really like the shimmers in here. I do feel they need fingers to apply though. LA Splash Classic Horror. I show you this every year. This is such a good rainbow color story as well, but the packaging is again stunning. This is a matte rainbow, but it's a grungy rainbow. I always show you the periwinkle, so this time I'm going to go for this grungy zombie green. And then Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse, a great cool tone palette that isn't super cool tone because we get some warm tone neutrals at this side of the palette. I mean, it just, this every single time I open this, I love it. And just the formula in here is also really, really excellent. Welcome to my Zoeva collection. This one you can still buy. This is one of the newer ones. They currently only do 2 palettes in their range. Together We Grow. You get those reddish tones here, but you get something green toned. This is such a good neutral tone palette. Let me just swatch that green toned shimmer. You have the Precious. This little guy has some really lovely one and done shadows in. You can also do a full look with it. Cocoa Blend. Lovely. I really like this. Spice of Life is that shade I really, really like. Quite possibly one of my favorite ever discontinued palettes, the On Taupe. This is so, so good. It's such a lovely cool tone palette. A lot of people thought this didn't have enough depth, but for fair skin like mine, this is going to give me a neutral look every single time. Blanc Fusion, my other favorite neutral palette from Zoeva. This is cool tone neutrals with yellows. Caramel Melange then, this is the warm toned one. Again, a warm tone palette that I do like. And then we have Premier. This has some really lovely shades. This entire corner here is just lovely. And then these like warmish mauve-y tones like this matte, I love. Like, it's really stunning. Then Eclectic Eyes has some really cool shades in as well. Then the Melody is stunning too. This is such a great neutral with a pop of something interesting color story from the brand. Zoeva is the secret duochrome brand, or at least they used to be, because they used to put duochromes in everything they did, but nobody talked about them. And then we have the IC, which is jewel tones, and we have the Heritage, which is like your sort of Great Gatsby 1920s kind of vibe. Next up is some indie brands. We have Menagerie and we have Unearthly Cosmetics. Unearthly used to be known as Alien Cosmetics. This is the Serendipity palette. This is still available. It's now called the Poison Apple. This is insane. This is an insane palette and an insane color story. This red is really gritty, but it does work really well. And then we have the Fairy Frolic, which is my favorite of the two because this is just a little bit more wearable, but it's got those lovely like grungy tones. Fall Magic is a great fall palette, I'm not gonna lie. This is such a good grungy neutral color story. It's really lovely. I love the shades in here. For something fun and bright, I have the Strawberry Milkshake from Unearthly. This is intense. Again, that red. Insane. Look at that vibrancy. Unearthly Cosmetics Lore then is the last one from Unearthly that I have. And this is another great grungy, more neutral leaning color story. And then we have Menagerie, and here I have again one that was discontinued. This is the Dragon Child, and this, I just keep this around because of those lovely purples at the bottom. Like, they're just really, really good, and that's why this can't go anywhere. And this is also discontinued. This is the Feral, some lovely shades in here. The Pastel Pup is my favorite pastel palette, so it's good to have that one around. And then we have the Flight Club, which wasn't perfect. So I actually took some shades from the Violet Ink and put them in here. So I took the neutrals out. And also the Whale Song, I took some of the shades from the Violet Ink and put them in here. Because I also felt that some of the shades in here pulled very samey on me. And here is what we still have left of my Kaleidos collection. The Cyber Bronze, I actually took the pink shimmer from the VR Neons and put it in here. Electro Turquoise is still like my favorite one. I love this like orange, this vibrant shade. Even though it's very vibrant, you can sort of use it as you would a neutral. The Lunar Lavender worked really well on my fair skin tone, so I love this one. And then we have the Astro Pink, and the Astro Pink, I took out the shimmering black it had, took the black from the Sci-Fi Greens and popped it in here. And then we have Sashimi City, which is one of my favorite neutral palettes. It's very smack in the middle neutral, and it's got some really, really cool intense shimmer in here. And then we have the Club Nebula, their collab with Angelica Newquist. This is lovely too. I really like this color story. It's very, very well done. And then we have the new quads from the Smoky Nostalgia collection. So I have the Cold Brew and I have the Black Jasmine. Now the mattes in here are really, really good. So before, especially with the Futurism palettes, I felt their mattes weren't that great. But I feel that in these Futurism palettes, or these Smoky Nostalgia palettes, they definitely upped the ante when it came to their matte formula, Kaleidos did. Lorac and Too Faced then. The Lorac Pro 2 is also on the chopping block. I just don't reach for this, and the main reason why I always want to keep it around is that jade shade, like this murky green. I feel I have this in several other palettes by now. Lorac Pro 4. Sorry, these are out of order, but this is really lovely rosy, like cool toned leaning shade. And I really like the Pro 3 as well. Like, this is one of my favorite neutral palettes. And then we have Too Faced, the, what's this called again? Chocolate Bonbons. I still like this. I still like looking at this, but by now I think I may have other cool tone palettes that I just like a bit better. But my favorite will forever be, this is going to stay around forever. This is the White Chocolate Bar. This is my favorite Too Faced palette. I always swatch Sugared Raisin. This is a palette I love using in the winter time because it's just so light, but it also has this really nice iridescence to it. And then the Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar, which was my pick over the original Chocolate Bar. This is also a really good neutral palette for me. And then my shades from the Gingerbread Spice, the Chocolate Bar, and the Sweet Peach ended up in here. So I did this myself. This is Lime Crime and Viseart. The Venus XL. This is my favorite berry palette, so this is the berry tone palette of choice. Venus XL2, one of the best palettes for fair skin for sure. If you're very light and you like your sagey greens, this is the Natascha Denona retro palette that everybody wanted. And this is that sage green shimmer that it has. And then we have these three smaller Lime Crime palettes. So we have the Venus Immortalis. It's one of the best taupes ever. Ever. And then we have the Venus 3. Which is lovely, but it's very similar to Nabla Soul Blooming, I feel. The Prelude Chroma. I mean, the teals. Oh. I mean, Lime Crime can just do some good color stories. And last in this selection, we have my Viseart collection. So Petite Pro 3. I like this. Neutrals with a pop of green. So yeah, this has some lovely, like, full row of shimmers, full row of mattes. Love it. And it's got a dark green that I really like. The Paris Etoile was the one that they launched for Christmas. This I love. It is smoky though. It is really, really grungy, but that purple, I mean, when you swatch it out. Then we have Midsummer, is more mauve-y rose toned leaning, and this has like fewer actual shimmers. I only have one of the Petit Four palettes, so these are the 4 pans, and a Petit Four Lilas. It's just something I love and adore. And then we have these two left, but these are currently still in a giveaway. So if you still want to enter, I believe today's the last day you can enter when this video goes live. So Kashmiri, is quite possibly one of my favorite neutral launches in recent years. It does everything. It's got rosy tones, it's got cool tones, it's got neutrals. It's not overly warm, like really only this and this. That's the only warmth we get. And then we have Violette Étendue, which is my favorite purple palette. It does have a great deal of neutrals, but you actually have enough purples to do a full-on purple look if you'd like to. Next up is Melt. This is my stack. This is the Gunmetal with a couple of other shades. This is from the Rust stack, and this is from the Blueprint stack that I used to own. But it's got some really stunning shades. I especially like this one. And I'm still sort of waiting for them to turn this into a palette. The Mary Jane has some similar shades, but it's not exactly the same. So let me then talk about the Mary Jane. This is quite possibly one of my favorites. It's cool tones, but I mean, it's messy. I mean, some Melt shadows are just really messy, but if you use a primer, they'll stick down. Look at that. Then we have the Melt and Beetlejuice collection. This is what the box looks like. This is the Wading Broom. I really appreciate what these shades do, but I don't feel the color story necessarily comes together, but it's got some really good reds and berries. I mean, these mattes are insane, and you just get your cool tones. So it has some really lovely grungy shades. That's what Melt is the best for. Melt Gemini. The OG grungy green color story. This is why I actually decluttered so many of my other grungy green color stories, because I have this and I only need it once. Millennial Pinks wasn't everyone's favorite, but I quite like it. On my fair skin, this works really well. The rosy tones aren't too peachy leaning, I feel. And these are some really interesting cool tones for a smoky eye. Muerte. This is so stunning. I always swatch the navy shimmer for you in here because it is magnificent. Smoke Sessions. This goes with the Gemini really well. She's in Parties. I used to own the stack, but I got the palette instead, and I feel it works much better for me now. The stack was a bit deep, but now that this has a couple of lighter shades here, I feel I can make it work a lot better. And finally, this palette I was gifted, and it is a really lovely neutral color story with blue, and I love this for the summertime. So let's start with the OG. Modern Renaissance. Do we still need to keep this? I'm not entirely sure. This may be on the declutter pile next year. Subculture, not going anywhere. I love this palette. I just love the shades. And I go back to it every fall. Love it with multi-chromes. Soft Glam? Anyone? I feel that this works better on me than a Modern Renaissance, even though it's still quite warm toned. This is called Mulberry from the Soft Glam. I mean, it's just stunning. Jackie Aina. This is one of my favorites as well from the line. She did a really great job. And this taupey shade? Absolutely stunning. And then Carly Bible. This is also a really good one. I really like this. I didn't think I was going to love the warm tones at the bottom, but they work quite well. And then you get these like periwinkle kind of shades. I was swatching a shade from the Carly Bible when my battery cut out. So I hope you still got to see that swatch, but that's from the Carly Bible. Norvina, the OG, not as purple as you'd hope, perhaps, but I do really like that shade here, Volatile. We have Prism, which again, I keep around for just a handful of shades, but I like it. The Sultry is really good. It's a bit, I don't love that it doesn't have a good enough crease shade for me. Like this is a bit dark, a bit warm, I should say, and this is a bit too dark, but I can make it work. And we have Riviera, and Riviera has a couple of really lovely shimmers in that top row, which is why I can't get rid of this. And then Nouveau, the newest one. And this one, the minute I spotted this, I knew I wanted to have it. It has some really stunning shades. I will be trying this out soon. And by now I have enough Natascha Denona that it gets its own spot. The Lila is my least favorite, but I keep it around because it's got a couple of really good shades. And then the gold has that favorite shade from the Lila in, because I put the gold shade from the gold into the Lila. This is Dragon Bite. But yeah, Kava is great. These shades are of course lovely. I love the mustardiness. This is a great neutral palette, and this is one I want to go back to. I'm like itching to use it again. Then we have two of the midi palettes. I have the Glam, which is it my favorite Natascha Denona palette? It could be. It could very well be. Then the Retro, I also really enjoy. This together with the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz are my replacements for the Naked 3. I feel they can do similar things. And then my trio of minis. The Mini Retro is quite possibly my favorite of the minis. This is really stunning. I love that green shade. and also the sparkly one that's right next to it. This is just, for 5 shades, you can just do so much with these. And the mini Love is also stunning, but I feel that in here, like this shade I wish would have been different. And then the mini Zendo, because I just felt like these two together, just great complementary shades. If you want to try Natascha Denona, go this route for sure. In here, of course, I love that cool tone, but I also quite like the other shimmers that were in here. It's got a good variety as well. And similarly to Natascha Denona getting its own layout, I'm now quite scared to show you all of my Pat McGrath stuff in one little overlay. This is the Venus in Floors Voyeuristic Vixen. I always call this the Floor Vixen. I think that's a much better name. And this is one of my favorite Pat McGrath palettes. I mean, the shimmers in here are lovely. You get a good enough matte for the crease. This thing here. It's insane what this shade does, and it looks so pretty on the eyes. So much texture. And this is one that not a lot of people liked. What's this called again? The Rose Decadence. So the mattes in here are really lovely, and this was the first time I got to try Pat McGrath mattes. I think I actually bought this before I ever got one of the like motherships. And I do actually prefer the packaging of that because this is so bulky. But yeah, that's a stunning shimmer as well. So these are from the same collection. This was the Lux Quads. So this is the, oh, what is it called again? Something Fleur. No, Risque Rose. Then this is Fleur Fantasia, which is the more lighter and pastely one. So this I really like. But I thought I wasn't going to like Interstellar Icon, and then I tried it and I was like, ooh. So that's why I knew the other one, the Fleur Vixen, would really work for me. I mean, oh wow. This is really stunning, and despite this being like grungy warm tones, it's such a good grungy look. And then I have the Blitz Astral Quad, so this is Ritualistic Rose, which is pretty, but these I feel just don't really work well enough as a quad. They need other shades to really work. This is the first time I tried Pat McGrath. I was like, is that it? That's what everybody's raving about? But then I tried some of the other palettes and I was like, oh, that's why everybody's raving about it. And then this happened. So yes, I've got 4 of the motherships, but yeah, the Subliminal, the #1, I love the box. This is what it looks like. It's a good, really good cool toned color story. The special shades in here work really well. The mattes in here work well. The satins work well for me. I mean, shall we do it again? Swatching the taupe. It's just really good. Then this is the Divine Rose too, and this is my favorite of like the rose palettes that she has. I just like this a bit better because it's just a little bit different from anything else I've got going on. It's just a little warm toned. I do really enjoy that bright pink though. And this is Divine Rose 1, and this I thought I was going to love, and just these 2 shades just throw the palette off completely for me. I wish these weren't here. Then it would have been a much better palette. I do really like these 2 shades. I like these 2 shades, and I like that shade and that shade. But the rest? And then the Utopian Dream. And this is sort of like if Divine Rose 1 and 2 had a baby and you threw in a pop of lavender. That's when you would get this. And I just really like the looks that came out of this. It was very pretty, very ethereal. And here again, the box just kind of does it as well, of course. So we are in for the home stretch right now. I only have 2 more overlays for you. So here we have the Balm, Tarte, Persona, and Fenty. This is what's left of my The Balm collection. I do really appreciate the Balm eyeshadow, but the Nude Dude and the Nude Beach I wasn't using, and the Nude Tude was demoted to my Makeup Memories box because even though I like this, I just wasn't using it. And then the Meet Matte palettes I kept around because I don't have that many all matte palettes, and these are just the best ones, even though you can no longer get them. So the Meet Matte Adore. Meet Matrimony has some really lovely warm tones in here. And the Meet Matte Nude was really special to me because I've always felt that you can sort of use this as a painter's palette. Then we have Tarte. So Tarte, I have just a couple of palettes by. I'm still sort of tempted by the Full Bloom, not gonna lie, but I have this, so I'm good. Toasted. Kind of on the chopping block for me. Do I still need this? I don't necessarily think I do, but it's got some really good warm tones in here and it's a good recommendation. And I mean, the Juicy kind of, again, it's a bit like some of the other palettes I've shown you, like they kind of go together. And then the Juicy kind of bridges the gap between the 3. Like, do you see what I mean? Kind of goes like that. This has like a neutral row, a warm tone row, and a pink row. Full Bloom, or the In Bloom, Not Going Anywhere. One of my favorite neutral palettes of all time. And then we just have the High Tides and Good Vibes here, which I always forget I have, but it's such a good one. And this is pressed glitters that I do like. Like, these are gritty, but for a pressed glitter, like, they're just not that terrible. Then Fenty Beauty Snap Shadows. Nobody likes these apart from me, it seems. This is the Smoky, and we have Cool Neutrals, and I kind of bought these like together because this is a bit light, this is a bit dark, so I feel they complemented each other nicely. I really like this. If you have fair skin, you're gonna like this, I'm sure. I like that pop of purple. Don't try to blend it into the crease or build it up all over your lid. It needs a very intense, dense brush on the lower lash line for a pop of purple, and then you're good. It's got some lovely taupes, and this has the mattes to really go with this. And then Persona, the Identity 1 and 2. The 1 is another great, great neutral palette that I just adore when I started using it. And the Identity 2 is a bit more jewel toned, and this shade here I absolutely love. And last, but certainly not least, we have another roundup of some indie shadows. September Rose, Blend Buddy, Nomad, Odin's Eye, and Ace Beauty. So let me start with Ace Beauty. That's sad, but that's the Oceanic palette, and I love it. It's my favorite blue-green palette, and it's got really intense shimmers. Let's do a teal. I love that. September Rose is an indie brand from the UK. These are my rainbow palettes of choice. I've decluttered many other rainbow palettes over these. This is a really nice gradient with more like the vibrant ones, like midtones. And then the Slush 1 is that, but then with more like pastel neon bright leaning shades. This is great if you have fair skin, and it's got a couple of shimmers. Blend Bunny then. These I've just recently tried. These were in my July eyeshadow palette review, and the Dollhouse is a great neutral palette. It looked more cool toned in the pictures online, and also again here in the viewfinder it looks like it's going to be a cool tone palette. It's just not that cool toned. Let me swatch this shimmer here because I love that. And then the Surge was my favorite of the two. This is a really good grungy, colorful color story. We only get one row of shimmers though, which is my only gripe here, but I knew that going into it. I mean, if you want vibrant shades, then I think Blend Bunny is currently like the brand where it's at. Moving this front and center, we have Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe. Oh, it actually shows it. It's got that moving diagram. I love it. I keep the box because I love it. And then this is the palette. I mean, it's fall vibes, you guys. It's really lovely. Nomad's formula is a bit thin, I have to say. So it's not my favorite, but I feel that if I have a color story by them that I like, then I also love it. And then Land of Fire and Ice, you get the blue and then the inside of a volcano on the inside, which that concept I love that. This has some really interesting shades. It really comes together, and we have a little elf poking through. Odin's Eye, the last thing we're gonna chat about. I have the Norns. Really lovely. This pulled a lot more cool tone than I had expected just looking at it. So unlike the Blend Bunny that looked cool toned but wasn't that cool toned, this looks warm toned but it really isn't. Then the discontinued Solomon, but I like this one better than the new one, I'm not gonna lie. And then the eyeshadow palette I'm wearing today, the Hella from their collab with Angelica. This is pretty, but I just feel like we don't get enough of the underworld. We don't get enough death in here. We get a lot of like spring life, but this is the only row that I feel represents like the decaying death sides of the god we're representing here. So I just wish that we had more of these like murky shades at the bottom. Like this row of pinks, I just don't really understand. And that's it. This was my eyeshadow palette collection. It took me 3 hours to film this, so I greatly hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make regular eyeshadow palette content on this channel for sure, so if you'd like to come back for more, and then I see you in my next video. Bye-bye!